You got your mama's sunshine, you got your daddy's rain. You're like a piece of heaven in a hurricane. And it's bubbling over.
Hey guys, how's it going? So we're in a different setting today, if you haven't noticed, but we're off the mountain. We're here at the Northwest campus of VBF, over here off of Coffee in Bakersfield. Yes, the road is called Coffee, which we've all had too much of today, apparently. And today we're talking about stress. Do you guys think that that's applicable today?
Oh, is it? This week has been one of the most stressful weeks I've ever had. And then we're talking about stress.
You know, it's funny. Just before I came here, I ran into the grocery store, and this elderly gentleman, the reason I'm saying he's elderly is because sometimes older people, they have a short fuse when it comes to patience. He turned his cart a little bit too wide and kind of like went to my path, my walking path, and he just looked at me and grunted. And I'm like, what did I do?
It was your fault. 100%.
What did I do? I think that guy was locked and loaded. And so when we talk about stress today, how can we start our day right? How can we start our day? Oh, excuse me. How can we start our day to where we are on top of ourselves? We're ready to go. We are in the right mindset. We are in the right space, right? In order to
Josh,
handle the real stresses that are going to come.
This week, I think it was one of the more stressful days I've had in my entire life, where if I wasn't a Christian, I probably would have been cussing. That's how bad it was. But but before we get into how we're going to handle stress, let's talk about stress for a second. Mm-hmm. Stress is a killer if you don't control it. Now, we know there's good stress and bad stress. Eustress, that's the short-term good stress, and distress is the long-term bad stress.
Right.
And good stress. Why do we need good stress? Well, number one, it motivates us. Mm-hmm. It focuses our energy. It gets us excited, like riding on a roller coaster. Yeah. It causes a competitive spirit. Mm-hmm. If we want to do something, sports-minded. Now, stress, bad stress, distress is killing. I mean, literally killing people in America. Stress in an unfiltered amount causes a lot of damage. It increases heart disease. It can promote diabetes. It can cause cancer growth. We're thinking maybe it does cause cancer too, but we're not sure. But we know it causes cancer growth, cancers to grow. It causes ulcers, affects the immune system, shortens your life. In fact, it even gives you belly fat. And I want to talk about that in a few moments. But what it is when you're put in a threatening situation, your adrenal glands kick into action, and they provide cortisol. And that triggers your cells in your liver, your fat, your muscle tissues to release the energy the body needs to get through the threatening situation.
Right.
And the energy that you release is the same energy that the body uses to fight off disease, to repair cell tissue, to help your immune system. So you're taking the energy from these organs in the body that are supposed to be fighting all these other different things that are bad for you. And if you stay in that mode often, it can damage your body. So stress, I believe, is probably worse for people than a bad diet, than no exercise. For example, and then I want to let you guys talk here, but Debbie and I the other day were talking about 2 or 3 people we know that are 80-some years old, and they're doing good. And we started thinking, now we know a little bit about these people. They've eaten a bad diet all their life. They have not really exercised, and on and on and on. And I told Debbie, I said, what's the common denominator? She says, Ron, all 3 of them have no stress. They don't have stress. I thought stress is killing us. So let us kind of I want to say also damage to the mitochondria, which I talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Now, what is mitochondria? It's the small pea-shaped structures that are found in our cells, and they're the energy of our cells, and they also regulate our immune system. And stress causes these cells to operate in a dysfunctional way. In fact, it kills the mitochondria. It destroys them. Within hours, it destroys them. Now let me say one more thing before we go too far. Stress produces free radicals. Now, remember, I did a thing on our health class. Free radicals are, for sake of illustration, compare free radicals to like the smoke of a campfire that's in your body. And this smoke is going into all your organs and causing cancer and disease and heart problems. It's just destroying the organs of your body, this smoke called free radicals. Now, the free radicals are caused from stress. Free radicals are caused from preservatives, from pesticides, from chemicals, from lack of exercise, and this all spells disaster to our health. Now, today I read something, and you're not going to want to hear this. Some of you are going to hate me. But coffee, according to some websites, it's one of the #1 pesticide sprayed crops in the entire world. So even in your coffee now, I do organic coffee, but in your coffee, you're getting pesticides. And so you get all these together. Let's say that you are stressing out. You're eating foods with a lot of preservatives. You're eating produce with a lot of pesticides on it. You don't have filters on your water, chemicals. Now, all of this, what it's doing is producing free radicals. How do we counteract free radicals? And this is redundant from our health podcast. You start getting antioxidants to your body. You start exercising. You do all that to kill, to eat up the smoke, right?
Yep.
So that's a long introduction, but I am a stress, what's the word I want to use? An anti-stress maniac. I stress a lot, but I am determined to win over stress. I have to.
So what you're saying is, if you take care of your body, right? If you take care of, fighting the free radicals, then you're also doing things that have been known to help stress, like exercise and eating better.
Definitely.
I mean, isn't there a connection between the gut and the brain?
There is.
Right.
I mean,
Josh, I've had times where I even tell your mother, I got this excess fat around my waist, and she'll say it's cortisol.
right,
You've been stressing out the last few days.
right.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
Well, I was
you're
going
good.
to say, I love what you said about also that you brought about like what good stress can be and bad stress, and being able to, I think it's the processing too of stress, like we talked about with exercise and all the things you started mentioning, because it's going to be natural that we're going to stress our body. There's going to be things in our lives. One of the things I don't know if I heard on your list or not. You talked about all the advantages of stress. It also protects you. And so in all of the stuff that's happening in your life, like you might be in a situation where you might be in danger. We didn't drive up to the ranch today because the roads are gone, right? So you're stressing about driving. Well, it's good stress. It's good to be aware of the roads, making sure you're not drowning, making sure those things aren't happening. So, but the processing of that stress, well, what am I going to do to make sure that stress isn't overcome? Well, we're not going to drive up on the mountain roads today. We're going to make good decisions to help process out some of that stress.
It's the fight or flight syndrome. And so once you're fighting or flighting, it takes care of that adrenaline.
Yeah. So,
but if you're sitting around as a couch potato, it's going to kill you.
Well, check this out. So I've learned a lot about the fight or flight syndrome. There's actually more. There's two more F's that I didn't know about before. There's fight, right, which is fight. There's flight, which is run. And they're both very important natural causes. When you see a lion in the forest, you're either going to fight him or you're going to run. You should fight him, by the way, not run. If it's a lion, mountain lion.
They get you.
Yeah. But the other two are fawn, which means negotiate, like you're negotiating. You're trying to figure out
how do you spell that? What do you say?
Fawn, F-A-W-N, fawn.
Fawn.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then the fourth one is freeze. And that's when you've kind of given up and you don't know what to do, so you freeze. Now, if you think about these four things, fight, flight, fawn, which is negotiate, or freeze, there are proper times to do all these things. Fight, sometimes you got to fight. Sometimes you got to run away.
Right.
I saw a snippet from Jocko's podcast. Tom knows who Jocko is, Jocko Willink. And he was talking about the best way to fight. And he's a Navy SEAL. A lot of people know who he is. And he was saying the best way to fight, I'll tell you right now, the number one skill you have is your feet. He's like, you run away. You run away from every fight because he's all, what can be gained by fighting somebody on the street? He's like, nothing.
Nothing,
So run away. So running is actually a great thing to do sometimes. It
helps process the stress, too.
Right.
The adrenaline.
Fawn, negotiating. Yeah, sometimes we have to stop and say, okay, what is going on here? How can I get out of this situation? Right. And then freeze. Sometimes it's proper to freeze. I was thinking about deer hunting as I thought about freezing. I thought, okay, you taught me how to stalk a deer, Dad, when I was a kid. And we would take 3 steps. The deer would pop its head up and look, and we would stop. We'd freeze. Right. If somebody breaks into your home and you know, and you don't have a weapon or you don't have a way to defend yourself, you sometimes freezing, hiding in the closet or something. That might be the best way. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, there are proper times to do all these things. The problem is that we are constantly going through this fight or flight response based on things that aren't really threats, right? And so we you know, it's a fight with our spouse, or it's a run in with some old dude at the grocery store, or it's a traffic
deadline.
situation, which is dangerous. But there are so many. It's the way, it's thinking about someone and how they think about you. Stresses you out. And they're not even thinking about you. They're thinking about how you think about them, right? It's ridiculous.
I've never heard of fawn. That's the first time. That's interesting.
I just learned about it.
Well, fawn is huge because, and I love that you talked about the negotiating part, because a lot of times, like you said, there's so much stuff that's happening in our lives. And sometimes we don't negotiate what's actually happening. Like, we don't think through the thing. Like, you know, we might get a phone call from, you know, a boss per se, right? And it's like, well, this thing is due, right? And instead of just, you know, you could stress and you start going to fight. Well, I can't get that done. Or you can go to flight where you're like, I'm not going to do it. You go, but the fawn is a good way to be able to go back and negotiate and say, well, let's be realistic about what can be done. Sometimes we're so unrealistic in the thing that's causing us stress that we build that thing up instead of negotiating it and actually realizing and calling it out for what it actually is. And I think that's a lot of our stress comes from the fact that we don't call out the thing for what it actually is. We give it too much power. We went on a hike. We just got back a couple weeks ago from our Lake Las Vegas marriage retreat, which was super successful, by the way. Pastor Ron, you guys did such a good job with Nicole and the whole team.
And for those who are out there who have never been to our marriage retreats, we have them every year, and we sell out every single year.
Fantastic.
You've got to come.
Well, I'll put a link in the notes, by the way, to the last message that you gave from there, because we were able to give that. So I'll put that in the notes. So we went on this hike up into it's not what you consider Red Rock, but if you've ever been into Vegas, they have a lot of Red Rock and natural stuff. And so we went up on this path that we've never been up on, and we ended up at this cliff. And my wife, Hannah, is basically, is this the way? I'm like, I don't think so. But at the cliff, what was funny,
you looked at her in like your Mandalorian stance and said, this is the way.
This is the way, right? Yeah. But instead of giving the cliff power and saying, well, this cliff is so deep and it's jagged and we're going to get stuck and not go down it, we did the simple thing. We looked around and say, well, is there another way? And I think a lot of times when stress comes upon us, we give that thing so much power. We give it so much build up and charge, and we let it overcome us instead of just calling it out for what it is. Hey, it's a cliff, yes, but there's probably another way around. And I think that alone, in talking about negotiating and recognizing the thing that's stressing us out, will help us overcome the stresses as we move forward.
In a real threat in the woods, there's a lion. You don't have a lot of time to negotiate, so you're going to do what you're going to do, right?
No, you got to fight,
But in most situations, in our perceived threats in our modern life, we have a few minutes or a moment to think it through before we react, and that's my problem.
Let's go back to what you said, though, Josh.
Man.
Stress has to be controlled.
Yeah.
We got to take bad stress and make it into good stress if we can. But let's go back to the mountain lion analogy.
Yeah.
You know, you see the mountain lion.
Yes.
Stress is released. The adrenaline's flowing, and it's fight or flight. But you have to control your stress at that moment, because they say if you run from the mountain lion, he's going to come after you.
Yeah. That's huge.
So all of a sudden, your stress has to come under control and going, I'm stressing out right now. I got to do something. But that something has to be the right thing.
And you know, it might be silly, Dad, if the average person that drives to work every day and drives home and goes to the grocery store, if they were to take mountain lion avoidance training, that'd be silly, right? But for someone who's in the woods all the time, they should take mountain lion avoidance training, right?
How to be prepared.
And the point is, be prepared, man. Have tools.
Well, you know what I think everybody's saying is, you can't eliminate stress. You got to manage.
You have to manage it. There you go.
You know, it's like you can take the mountain lion thing. I think the first thing you're going to probably run up on is probably a footprint.
Yes.
Right.
And you see the footprint, you can't have stress then.
A fresh footprint.
Yeah. Now, if you go a little farther and see some, some scat, you might want to see what temperature is. But when you see the real thing, that's the time to stress. The footprint or nothing gives you stress until that moment. So you've got to be able to manage those moments. Like footprints, like, wow, I've never seen that before.
Right.
But that may have been left last week.
Well, I like what Pastor said about the mountain lion. I like that, Josh. Yeah. But a lot of times we see the mountain lion and we ignore it. And then that's when stress gets even, because then that thing pounces on you and it has a chance to pounce on you. Instead of saying, that's the thing that's stressing me out. There it is right there, and recognizing it. we don't actually stop and recognize
my
it.
problem has been, and I'm learning. I've learned all these things through my own therapy. So I'm a student right now. My response or my issue has been that I stack my stresses. So I see a mountain lion and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put that there. And then I see a bear, I'm like, okay, here's the bear. And then I see a cliff that, you know, is dangerous. I stack them all up until I just get overwhelmed by the tiniest little thing. There's a bee, and I'm like, oh my god.
For me, the bees are killer.
I've always said that it's like somebody walking on the edge of a cliff. If you live with stress all the time, somebody just bumps into you, you're going to freak out because you're at the edge of the cliff.
And I've learned that with this man that I encountered in the grocery store, he probably had 30 things on his mind that he's having a really hard time with. And
maybe
so
he just lost a spouse or something. You don't
honestly,
know.
I smiled at him, went my way, no big deal. It wasn't a big deal.
Well, you know, going
but
back to my life, Josh, and you come into play here, but I have 2 cancers. All right, let me rephrase that. I don't want to give the cancers possession, give it power. I've had a fight with 2 cancers, and I've often explained to people why I think I got the cancers. I lived out in Arvin a lot, and I drank out of the irrigation standpipes, which were full of fertilizer. I was little, I didn't know. A crop duster airplane came by and drenched me with pesticide. I didn't even take a shower, and I was like 10 years old. I swam in the reservoirs full of chemicals. I played with liquid mercury. My dad brought it home from work all the time. I don't know how bad that was for me. I played with it.
Not good.
I had my hair bleached a lot, and the particular hairdresser I had would always poke at my head till there were little sores, open sores.
Oh, man.
And that bleach got into those sores. And so all of that accumulated, but I think stress was the number one issue. You came to me one day, and you said, Dad, I know you do all this health stuff. Stress is going to kill you, Dad. That's what's going to kill you. So I think on top of all that accumulation of that, the stress was the icing on the cake. I think it really played into damaging my DNA. And so now I'm trying to work back from all of that.
But using stress, like you said, as a motivation, can actually be a good thing because there are real threats, right? You could lose your job, or you might your relationships might fall apart, or you might get in a car wreck. Like there are real, true issues at hand. But to use that stress wisely to make good decisions, that's where people tend to fall apart. I have some tools, and I'll share them at some point, but I don't think we're ready for that yet.
No, and I got about 12 things we do to combat stress, but I know Tom's the one to say something.
No,
Okay.
I've just listened to the conversation, and I like where it's going because we're not telling you to eliminate it.
No, just manage it.
That's impossible.
Just
'Cause
manage
every angle or source of your life is going to cause you stress.
Yes.
I mean, just leaving the house in the morning.
Right.
Yesterday I woke up, I had plenty of time, and all of a sudden I looked up and I didn't have any time. Like, where did it go?
Yep.
And I was like, so I had to hurry up and get to the gym, and I had a friend come over and start to talk, and I go, hey, I just somehow lost time today, and I have to get someplace else. I regretted that all day long because I wish I had more time to talk to him. And for him, he probably doesn't matter about it, but it was on me. So I was a little stressed, like going, hey, I need to text him or something and say, hey, I'm sorry. But there again, as you manage the stress, you're going to find a way to let it go, because I had to let that go.
Let me illustrate that right now. I'm sitting here right now in the podcast, and I just got a text. This is your mortgage company. Call us immediately.
Oh, man.
And
That's caused you stress?
so I tried, and I wanted to jump out, but then I thought, no, I'm going to manage it right now. I'm going to finish this podcast.
And we all get those texts, but he's going through a mortgage
I'm
transaction.
going through something really big right now, so I'm
that
going,
makes
uh-oh.
Well,
You want to go into how do we manage stress?
Yeah, and before we do that, I just want to give you guys an encouragement that we have tools, right? We all have tools.
Yes.
And we're going to give you the tools that we have as best as we can right now. But ultimately, you need to create your own tool chest. You need to have your own tool chest.
Yes.
You need to.
There you go.
You need to carry your bag with
There
you
you
and
go.
have your hammer and have your. It's your responsibility to not only do that for yourself, but to teach your kids if you're a parent to do that as well.
Can we take these kind of slow and work through them?
Yeah.
Kind of stay on each point and kind of ring it out?
I think this is key. I think this is huge, man.
Oh, it's huge. It's killing people out there. It's going to cause people to have a shorter life and a more miserable life if they don't manage their stress.
The saddest thing, Dad, and Tom, I was talking. I forgot to introduce everybody today, but listen to the past podcasts, you'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
Tom, we were talking about how therapy, right, is really inaccessible for a lot of people. I mean, good therapy. There are county programs and whatnot, but you have to go through so many hoops. And then, ultimately, how much help do you really get? I don't know. But some are better than others. But at the end of the day, it is really difficult for people to get help. And so with these tools that we're going to give you guys, take them, run with it, but do your own research. There's no excuse anymore because all the research is there. All the information is there. All it takes is effort and study and application, right? To find out what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there again, that's why I think too, you got to throw a multiple of options out there and then grab the right one.
But we're going to give you guys a head start here. Are you into the mortgage thing now?
What I'm doing right now, I'm managing my stress.
Real time, guys.
Let me jump into this one because Josh, I can be at home and I'll get up in the morning and I'll have an even pace, and I can sit down and then something happens and then it causes my heart rate to increase because stress came in. And one of the easiest things, I mean, this is so easy and everybody has it at an opportunity. I've learned that I need to stand up and I need to walk because my heart's working. If I sit there, I'm going to keep feeling my heart pounding. So I get up and I start, I might as well walk and get some exercise because I've already got a kickstart. And so sometimes my thing is, do I go in the backyard, walk around the pool, or do I go out the front yard and walk around the block? Because sometimes managing stress is just changing an environment. Yep. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes this is the very beginning of it. I'm not saying it works in every condition.
I love it.
But I sometimes will walk out the front door and my wife will realize I'm not going to be back for probably 20 minutes. Back door is 5 minutes.
Well, you
front door is 20 minutes. But
you interrupted a cycle is what you did.
yeah. And so as I go out the front door, it also gives me some time to process it before I run back into it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
So it happens quite a bit. And my wife will see me walk out the front door, and ever since I've had my anxiety with my heart, if I walk out the front door, she's not expecting me to come back for 20 minutes.
Again, the context of Tom's heart story, past podcast.
Yes, podcast. But I'm just saying.
I just manage my stress right now.
Yeah.
I just managed it.
Yeah.
How'd you do it?
I took this terrible text I just got, gave it to my wife. I said, take care of it. I'm doing a podcast. So now the stress is on her. Can I tell a joke? Could a joke be good on here?
Might as well.
One night, a lady was in bed with her husband, and he was tossing, turning. Finally, she said, you're keeping me awake. What are you doing? He said, I'm stressed out. Why are you stressed out? He said, I owe the neighbor that $300, and I don't have it. And I know I'm going to see him tomorrow, and I'm just stressing out. She says, okay, let me handle this. She went over. They live right next door. She rolled up her window and said, hey, neighbor, are you in there? I want to tell you, my husband owes you $300. He doesn't have it, and I don't know if he'll ever have it. So take it, and you worry about it now. She left the window and said, now he's worried about it. Stress is off of you. That didn't tell the joke very well. It goes back. Right? Just came off the top of my head.
That's right. We need a little comic relief.
But you know what? Here are some ways I manage stress. And number one is we need to see our problems through a different lens. That will help us enormously. See our problems through a different lens. As Christians, problems come. There's reasons for them. To build character, as an opportunity to show how big our God is, to refocus our faith, to help us practice prayer. Because the Bible says that, in instruction, says, be anxious for nothing, but pray through your problems. And if you pray through them and give them to God, it says you'll have peace that passes understanding. You'll have peace that is crazy peace. So the first thing I have to do, I have to refocus problems and go, problems are part of the journey for a Christian. And if I do that, it helps me.
Can I comment on that first one, especially the scripture? How many of us in prayer how many of us pray so generically that we never even know if our answers are our prayers are answered?
That's one of my pet peeves.
Right? God help me. Amen.
Yes.
And then you wake up, God, where were you? But instead, Lord, here's my issue. Be specific, like he's actually real, like he's actually listening, right? And that could really make a difference in seeing him answer the prayer, right?
Josh, you've heard me use the illustration before. You don't go into a department store and the salesman comes up to you and says, can I help you? You go, can you show me something? What? Can you show me something? Well, what do you want me to show you? Just something. You have to be specific, and you will never know your prayers are answered if you don't pray specifically.
You
I
have to
can't
pray
remember
specifically.
the exact definition of supplication there in that scripture, but I think that it means specifics. I think it's like it means like
does.
your actual.
Tom, you feel free to step in. I over caffeinated this morning, so I don't want to hog the show here.
Oh, no. I think you guys are hitting the nail on the head because as somebody does have a stressful moment, you've got to be able to do that. But if you leave out the spiritual side and you're a spiritual person, you've almost pretty much missed the ball game.
You have.
And I know some people might think it's difficult, but we've all been there, right? We've all said that prayer that, Lord, help me, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a response.
Yes.
I mean, if you're not specific about your prayers, you're not going to know how it came from. You may think there's a coincidence, and I don't believe in coincidence. Yesterday, I was coming out of a Bible study, and I've been wanting to get a hold of this guy. True story. I came out of the Bible study, and there was a guy walking down the street, and there was a good chance that it was the guy because he had a gym next to where my Bible study was. And I looked at him, and I go, "You're Brett, right?" And he goes, "You're Tom." And I go, "I was hoping I was going to meet you." And he goes, "And I was hoping I would see you." And I was like, so it wasn't a chance meeting, right? Yeah. I mean, it could have been thought one, but I had been praying that I would run into this guy, and apparently he was doing the same thing. Otherwise, I could have thought, oh, that was just random, but it wasn't random. We had a great conversation, and I, invited him to the Bible study. He goes, "You know what? I got to tell you, I knew you guys were doing that here." So it was a moment that as I did it, if I don't pray specifically, how am I going to know that? Now, if I would have missed it and kept thinking, I wonder if that was the guy that I was praying for, he might have go, well, that was Tom, and he just blew me off. That'd have been a stressful moment.
Can I
but you have to take
comment on something that both of you guys have taught us? You've taught me specifically, is to record your prayers. Also, record what God is doing every day. Journal, write it down. Now, there's so many people out there who say, I've tried to journal. I don't like writing things down. But if you do write them down, you're going to have a reference to go back and see if those prayers were answered. But I do have a tool for you guys. You can go to Best Buy, okay? And you can buy a little tiny video recorder in the video camera section for $100, okay? And it's a lot of money. You can probably find one cheaper on Amazon. But let's say $100, right? That's expensive. I get it. But how expensive is it to keep buying journals every month, right? Mm-hmm. That's expensive too. If you buy a tool like that and you just journal your prayers, turn that recorder on and pray, and then go back and you can listen to them and say, "Man, God answered that prayer," right? That's for people like David.
Not only that though,
people
Josh,
like
as pastors, I've never done it, but there was a suggestion years ago. Thoughts are always going through our mind. Instead of losing those thoughts, have something and speak into them and say, "Man, I just had a thought right now. This is a really cool thought." But I want to go back to what Tom said about praying specifically. When I'm in a stressful situation, I could pray, "God, come and help me with my problem." Yeah. That's generic. Right. I could say, "God, right now, I need help to not react and hurt somebody's feelings." Now, that's a whole different prayer. Right. That's more specific. But again, going back to this one and ringing it out here is learn to see your problems through a different lens. That's going to help you with your stress. This is part of the journey. I'm supposed to have problems as a Christian believer because that's one of God's methods on how he grooms me and changes my character.
I think, too, when you guys talked about naming those specific prayers, like when you go in, as you start naming those things, you might realize that the problem that you thought you had isn't the problem you had. As you start saying them out loud and saying, "God, help me in this specific," you might be like, wait a second, that's not that big of a deal, and start realizing through prayer and through that, through that moment that thing isn't what you thought it was. And that's
praying
huge.
out loud in general also helps you remember what you're praying for. Yeah. I don't know, like praying out loud versus praying in your mind.
I don't like praying in the mind. Right. The Bible says to pray in the Spirit, but that means as the Spirit guides and leads you. I think what we do, Josh, we can get into a habit of confusing thoughts with prayers, and they're two different things.
Well, I think people, and I know just from when I was younger, I was like, well, God just sees my heart, so I'd pray like, "God, you know my heart, you know what I'm thinking." But it's in the process of saying, like I said, as we're talking about saying those things out loud, you're able to get through those things. And not only is God hearing those things, but you're also hearing them for yourself. Like, hey, this is the thing. And then and like I said, the thing might not be that big of a deal.
I only pray out loud usually.
Deal.
Yeah. Usually
I
always
pray in my mind when I'm hiding from the devil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like what you had to say because I pulled up something, and you were, and I journal all the time, but you were a confirmation for something for me back in January 6th, 2020. And I wrote it down because there was something that was going through my mind, and I wrote it down.
Well, that's a miracle in itself, Tom. That I was a confirmation for you.
Well, you were, you were, and I have it right here.
That's awesome.
But then I've got
God.
another 20 pages of other confirmations and notes, but they don't make sense until you put them all together.
Well, sometimes, Tom, when you're listening to people, correct me if I'm wrong, you're listening to God. What's God speaking behind what they're doing?
Well, I mean, you can stress out about it, or you can have people in your life that you talk to, and you were. I mean, how many times you go into church and God confirmed something, Pastor?
Right.
Yes.
You know, you could be sitting there thinking, "Oh, I need to do this," and you come to hear a sermon, and all of a sudden, you know, the pastor. How many times, Pastor, somebody come up and you say, "I like when you said that," and you go, "I never said that."
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I thought you heard that, but I didn't say that.
But the person got it, and they go, that took their stress level down. That's what they're saying. Man, I'm so glad you said that because it hit me in an area that I'm dealing with right now. So you have to put yourself in the right circumstance.
You do. You do.
Right areas.
Well,
yeah.
Well, you know what? And going on, because we have a lot to cover. Do you have anything to say about that, about refocusing your problem?
Right,
and here's another one. This is a kind of a catch-22. 22, is that right?
Yeah.
That's reduce caffeine and sugar if you want to help your stress. But this is kind of a tough one for me because sometimes I'm in a funk and things are bothering me. And then I take caffeine, I get out of my funk, and I'm going, whoa. So it's kind of a...
Well, I think we combine caffeine and sugar because of all the Starbucks drinks and all the drinks on the shelf. But they don't have to be combined. I mean, you can get black coffee or you can get your coffee with the, coconut oil or whatever that helps your mind.
But sometimes caffeine intake makes my problems worse, but other times it helps me. So that's why I say it's kind of a...
Well,
because
it's
you know,
when the
hard
mind
one.
revs, you know. I think a lot of times, especially when we're overly stressed, you add the caffeine, your mind can rev, and you start thinking about things that not necessarily aren't real. Again, you make the problem bigger when your mind revs.
Here's the thing. That's general. You guys are both high strung. I'm not. So
that's not true.
Oh, that's what I'm saying too. I'm saying,
you
what?
actually are one of the more high strung. But the self awareness will kick in.
I am
at
high
some point.
strung.
in this
God
podcast.
forgive us. In Jesus' name, amen.
I'm high
The
strung.
self awareness will settle in at some point.
I'm learned high strung. Okay, that's what I am.
Don't
to keep
blame
up,
others.
to keep up with you guys.
Don't
That's
blame
what
others.
it is.
We're all for high strung.
Yeah. And we're family. If you guys are first listening to this,
We're
so,
for competitive
this is
high
my
strung
dad, he's my
guys.
best friend. So we talk to each other like this. But
We're from Boston.
But you guys have, somebody told me that the other day. It's like, you guys sound like you're from Boston. But no, you got to be aggressive in our little group. You know what I mean? But you guys, here's the thing. You guys have natural energy. That's a better way to put it.
Okay.
You guys have a natural
Okay.
energy. I do not. Like,
Yeah.
I could be a zombie all day long. And it probably has to do with my diet and exercise. I get it. But my natural, you know this from when I'm a kid. When I was young, I was lower energy. I was out of school for a long time. Remember in 5th grade?
Yeah, but you had tonsils too.
I did. I got
We
those
had them
taken
out, taken
yeah.
out.
Medical reason.
Yeah, but at the same time, like the people are wired different. That's my point.
They are,
For
yeah.
sure. That's my point.
Yeah.
You guys are high strung, and other people aren't.
Well, you know, guys, and I think what Vince said, I want to jump in here real quick. But when you may not have a tendency, you know, sometimes you got to avoid something that will take you farther over the edge.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're worried about something, one of the worst things you could probably do is get into social media.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes if I got a worry going on, the last place I want to do is get onto social media and hear some bad news.
That's good,
Yes.
Tom.
So you got to stay away from that. I mean, you got to
Tom,
find a way
It's terrible.
to unplug until you maybe settle down, your heart rate goes down, your circumstance might change.
We have a couple friends that are school psychologists, and the depression levels and the anxiety levels, which are connected, by the way, depression and anxiety, they're through the roof right now with young people. And one of our friends told my wife that that one of the kids had the log on his phone to see how long he was on his phone.
Right.
14 hours in a day
Ridiculous.
on his phone. You see, the problem is,
You gotta
and I
unplug.
know that it seems hypocritical because we all have phones, but we do need them. I mean, they're kind of, for a lot of us, they are necessary tools to connect with people. But at the same time, these are dangerous, and they need to be taught how to be handled because they're. I've seen people that have full blown addictions to tech, full blown addictions to their phones.
Yeah.
Like it's a problem.
Yeah.
They don't have it. They get all nervous. The other day, I went out of town with my wife, and I realized I didn't have my phone. And I
It
started
caused
to,
stress, right?
Yeah, I started to stress and panic, but then I was like, no, this is really good.
That's good. Yeah.
You have your phone, babe. If someone needs to get a hold of us,
Yes, it's like the people in the room are the people that would be calling you or texting you, right?
Yeah.
So let me say something right now too. I know our viewers are saying, "Well, Pastor Ron's stressed out right now. Looking for no, I'm looking up stuff that has to do with the podcast.
Yes.
I'm looking
Yes,
up
we are.
like I said,
I'm not stressing out. That's done.
phones are tools. You know?
I'm using it to look up a
Well,
word that I want to use
I
or
want to
whatever.
add to that, Josh, just for parents too. I love that you brought that up about the use. Most kids have screen time where you can set the screen time as a parent.
Yeah.
You can you're a parent. You can take your kid's device and set times when they can and can't be off. That phone will shut off. But if you're a parent and you feel like, well, my kid's phone doesn't have that screen time because maybe you don't have an Apple phone, your internet in your house will allow you to set parameters on when they can and can't be off the internet. At our house, the internet shuts off at 8 p.m. And our kids are like, Dad, can you turn it back on the internet? 5 more minutes, I promise something. No, it's gone. It's gone for the day. So you have to take control of that. And if you don't know how to take program your modem to turn it off, just unplug the thing.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
a
have
great
an
idea.
idea too, and it's just a theory.
Smart.
That too much looking at our internets and all this stuff is causing neurotransmitters to misfire in our brain. I think somewhere down the line, they're going to tie in just being on the internet a lot with depression,
They
with
already
suicidal
are.
thoughts.
They already are.
Already are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And somewhere down the line, we're going to tie these two together. But go back to what
It
Tom
is.
said. Spending too much time on social media or spending too much time listening to the syndicated news.
Oh, yes.
All this, all of a sudden, we're going to be killed by nuclear war. The ozone's depleting.
Climate is good.
AIs are taking over.
Right.
EMFs are killing us. And all of a
Aliens are
sudden,
here.
remember, always keep in mind that syndicated news programs and even CNN and Fox News, it's the entertainment industry.
they
They
exist to
have
make
to
money.
make things worse than they are sometimes. They got to build them up to get a listening audience.
Yes.
And then you're going to listen and you're going to take it for granted, whatever they're saying, going, that's the truth right there. And you're going to start worrying.
I like what you said about the phone and where it's going. If they sold a phone, and you went into AT&T and they had it on a phone, it said, you know how when you sell medical things and it's like there's always a disclaimer. What do they call those?
Yeah, disclaimers.
Well, but if they said this phone may cause depression, mental illness, if they
go.
went through all these, lust, sexual addiction. No, I'm just saying,
that's
like
serious.
it may
Lust.
cause. If you just went through this big old list of the thing that the phone, people would be like,
And it may destroy your life.
this could destroy your life.
marriage,
Really
your
think
life.
about it. I mean, think about how dangerous the phone actually can be.
How many
to
marriages
people.
have been destroyed because of a man looking at pornography on his phone?
Or connecting with an old flame, or
all kinds
all
of stuff?
kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could.
Yeah.
Or a
You
new
can,
flame.
but the disclaimer. I was just
Jeez.
thinking, if you went and buy a phone and they said this is all the stuff, you'd be like, meh.
Can't we
never
say
mind.
one sign of maturity, though, is to control all these things?
Yes.
Well,
Control the
And
phone.
here's the
Control
thing.
your
Here's the thing.
stress.
So, like, when you don't have control, when you don't have self-control, right?
Right.
Over, let's say,
That's
the phone,
huge.
which is a good example. It causes so much underlying stress that when other things come, when the lion or the bear comes, you are losing your mind.
Yeah.
You are.
Well, you can't
I mean,
fight
how
the
many-
lion and the bear.
How
if
many
you're that stressed.
men, Tom, do have you spoken to who have so many issues because of the lies and the things that they've held from their spouse or from other people?
right.
Like, it's a huge issue.
Well,
It
well,
really
you know,
is.
we all know this, that conviction, and I think that's one of the main values of the Holy Spirit is having that conviction,
Yeah.
and then you're supposed to do something with that, and how much stress that causes.
And you know what? Right
You know?
now, during this podcast, wherever you're listening, this might be God speaking to you, saying, "Hey, cool it, figure it out, be honest with your spouse. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt, but the ultimate end." I've seen marriages fall apart in the last couple of years, especially since COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And my own marriage was struggling for a while because I was dealing with some stuff. The difference between me and them is I went to my wife at some point and we had a talk. And I said, okay, I am having a hard time here. It didn't go exactly like that, but it was a real thing. It was a real moment. And for those of you that are out there that you feel like you've dug the hole of deceit or dug the hole of whatever it is that you've gone
Right.
through, you can keep digging and digging and digging, and you can stop at any time. If
Yes.
it's not too late, it's not too late. If you still have your marriage, if you still have your family.
Yes.
But I've seen people
Yes.
that they think think they believe the lie of the devil. I'm preaching now. They believe the lie that you can't turn around. You've gone too far, and that is when the devil has you, because that's when you're at that moment where you can turn around, but you're believing the lie. So you continue to say whatever. You throw your hands in the air and you continue going.
I've already went this far. Might as well go all the way.
You end up throwing it away. And I know people that are still running. They're still digging that hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's, guess what? It's not getting better.
I talk to men all the time, and they're afraid to give their wife the password with a phone. Or my whole family knows my phone password.
Definitely.
Anybody can go pick up a phone and just open it and look for something. I mean, and I don't see it. And there was a time in my life, if that happened, we didn't have phones and I was doing that stuff, I'd be going, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it would stress me out.
I was on, and I'm not saying that other people should do this. I was on Instagram a lot, just scrolling and stuff. And I never got anything bad on Instagram at all. But my wife noticed that I was on it too much. Like, it was becoming kind of an addiction. You know, where's this person at today? You know, where's this place? You know, what's this person wearing or doing? Not that I like shoes. Anyway,
we like Tom like shoes.
Tom and I like shoes. We're also manly men. But I was on there so much that she noticed, and I was going through some other health issues, mental health issues, and I was like, this is one thing that I don't need anymore in my life. And so I quit. Instagram. Well, I had followers. I had some stuff kind of going there, but I quit it because it was one less stress in my life.
Right.
At that point, and it helped.
Let me comment on something you said and Tom said. Number one, your mother has always said sin's like going down a staircase.
I thought of that.
You can always turn around and start coming back up anytime you want. Yeah. And Tom said something too, that when we're being convicted over something we've done, if we don't act on that conviction and confess our sins, maybe confess to someone else, it builds up stress. For example, I've had probably 3 times in the last few years that I've said something in the pulpit on Sunday morning, and I've got home and I went, that wasn't good. I shouldn't have said that. That's going to hurt somebody. That was rude. I shouldn't have said it. And it'll bother me and bother me and bother me. I'll go to bed at night. It's bother me on Sunday night. And finally, I have to tell myself, this is a little thing that I've done for the last year. When something's bothering me and I go to bed, stressing out about it. When I get up to go to the bathroom or do something, my wheels start turning and I start thinking about it again. And it helps me to say to myself, disengage, Ron. Disengage. You can take care of this tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, go back to my thought. I say something in the pulpit or I say something to somebody and I'm stressing out about it all night long. First thing in the morning, I get up. I've done this 3 times. I go on the internet, go on social media and said, hey, I said something yesterday I feel bad about. I was rude with it, and I confess. I do something with that conviction. And then I feel really good. Or if it's somebody that I offended, first thing in the morning, I write them and say, man, I am so sorry. Please forgive me for what I said. And then my stress leaves. So when you're under conviction, you got to do something with that conviction or it'll continue to stress you out.
You know what I like about it, because sometimes you'll do that. My wife will get up and goes, what was Pastor Ron saying? I go, I don't know, because it didn't apply to me.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying.
But apply to somebody else out there.
So it's a good technique that you can utilize, and you can do it. I look at things and I think, and I have a heart for older people now because I'm getting older. I was worried about that conversation you had about the older guy. I go, that's one day me.
That is me.
It doesn't have to be.
But I think you also have to have self-awareness, because I can't do things that I used to be able to do.
Yep.
And I've got to let myself go. Self-awareness for me is basically realizing I'm not the same guy.
Right.
And I love it because I've shared it, and you can go back in the podcast or whatever to hear me say it. But I remember when my wife looked at me when I was going through my anxiety and stress with my heart. She grabbed my face, she looked at me, she goes, Tom, I need the old Tom back. Not the same way, but I need you to grip. And I knew what that meant. And so I can't multitask like I used to. And I don't let that stress me out.
Well, Tom, no
one.
You know
what I'm saying? Pastor, you and I talk about it all the time. You could either stress about that or just say, I can't do 3 things, but I can do 2
It
things.
is what it is.
And
Multitasking is a myth anyway. I mean, what you're doing is you're focusing on one thing,
And then switching
you're
it.
focusing on another thing.
Yes.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it actually jumbles up.
well,
your brain.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, if I used to think I could do 3 things,
you're high
I
strung.
can't do 3 things anymore. I can do 2. And and there's going to be a point where I can do 1.
Yeah.
You know, so I got to let myself go. I mean, I used to freak out when I'd leave at the gym, and I think I would hear the voice like I didn't do enough calf raises. I'd go back in and redo it. Now I just laugh when I'm walking out
Well,
of the gym.
you know what,
I don't think I did enough. I go,
Tom,
I'm
that
done.
leads me right to my next point, is that sometimes when you work out at the gym, it releases your stress and helps you.
That's good.
But like you and I got so into working out that when I didn't work out, I stressed
stressed
all day
out?
because I didn't work out.
Yeah.
But for normal people in normal situations, sometimes when you're really starting to stress out, go to the gym for an hour workout.
Yeah.
And it'll really
You know,
release this.
I have a fist-sized
stress.
hole in my drywall in my workout room, and I didn't fix it on purpose because I want that to be a reminder. So what I did is I bought a punching bag. It's next to it. So instead of
You punch in the wall, you punch the
instead of
softer.
punching the wrong thing, instead of attacking the wrong thing, which was just dumb. I mean, I just I can have an outlet, and that's the thing. Men need outlets, right?
They do.
We just do.
Well, it used to be, and I think I shared this with you, Pastor. After I would do a funeral, they started taking a little more piece of me. I don't know why. They used to not a problem. So I used to say I would hold off working out until after the funeral, and work out after the funeral.
Now
because,
you changed it.
Yeah, well, because it was just something. Now when I do something that kind of maybe is not a negative, but it's a downer sometimes. You're around people that are grieving, and you
Well,
grieve with them.
So you're still working out afterwards or before?
Usually I work out in the morning.
Okay.
But if I worked out in the morning at 8 and I was going to do a funeral service at 10, I would not work out at 8 and I would work out after the service. Because I figure I would get the endorphins kicking
Right.
when they were probably down.
So Tom, I have something to say on that. I think that everyone has things to do that they don't like to do, or
Yes.
that
Yes.
pull the energy out of them, right?
Yes.
We've talked about having a cup empty or full.
Yeah.
So that empties your cup a little bit. So the gym
More than
fills
it
it
used
up,
to. Yes.
right? And
yeah.
look, you're at even.
I
Steven,
started
even
learning
keel.
that, and I just started in myself, kind of working. I started working with myself, and I
There you
think
go.
that's probably a good word.
Like that.
People need to start working with themselves instead of against.
So you just led me
themselves.
to another point. Another way, do you guys find out that going to the gym helps you release stress?
Oh, big time. Yeah, I was gonna say
Or deal with it?
I started cycling with my wife. I've cycled before, but I started cycling with my wife, and that's been a good way. Some of the guys are like, that might cause more stress for me, but it's been a great way for us to disconnect and then have a moment together. And then I was gonna add to the gym thing, also having community, cycling with people, going to the gym, going fishing with somebody. That's just a great way to also disconnect. So having that community, having those people around you, sometimes it'll help.
We talk about
alleviate
a stress release.
that. Yeah.
I mean, you're working out and you're doing it with somebody else, so the
Yeah.
fellowship combined
Yeah.
with the working out.
Yeah.
But I want to go
There's-
with something you just
studies on that.
led into a minute ago. You can help manage your stress by learning to say no.
Oh,
yeah.
By learning to say
huge,
no.
Huge.
How many times do I say yes to something on the spur of the moment, and then I stress out about it for a whole week, going, "Why did I
or
say
more
yes?
than a week?
Why did I say
Yeah.
yes?" Well, a month or whenever that date
whenever that
comes
date
up that I
comes,
have to
right,
do what
yeah.
I said I would do that I didn't want to do.
You know, and I think that is huge. There's a book called Boundaries that you turned me on that let me know that no is an acceptable word.
Mhm.
And it's funny because you let people put you in position sometimes, and I think that's why I'm talking to you guys now. Don't let somebody put you in a position when you have to answer like that. You know,
Don't let 'em,
because even
yes.
Pastor Ron, over the last 3 or 4 months, you've told me, Tom, let me get back to you on that. I like that, but let me get back to you.
Let
'Cause
me
I'll
think
say,
about it, sleep on
yeah,
it, pray about it.
And so I will tell people, and the other day I had a young guy go, when are we going to do that? I go, I'm going to get back to you on that.
Yeah.
Because I could have just popped
Yeah.
off
Yeah.
and put myself in a peril of disappointing somebody.
You know, Tom, what I've learned is that there are even boundaries in your marriage. Like if my wife says, "Hey, don't go there for now," I need to respect that and say, "Okay, I'm not going to go there for right now." Eventually, it'd be great if we go there and talk about this thing, but right now, I'm not going to. And I think if you're out there and your spouse has tried to set boundaries and talk to you, and you don't respect those, then don't expect a good result. Just don't, because it's if you're disrespectful to your spouse, then it's gonna be.
Well, we
I know
brought-
I sound like somebody
Yeah,
who's
no.
who's
We brought that
experienced
out at
this
the
before.
marriage retreat.
But
We said, and I think, I don't know who said it, but when you criticize your spouse in front of other people or you're rude to them, what does it say about you?
oh, it's terrible.
What does that say about you?
And how many of us think about that, right? How I treat the people in my family, how I treat my friends. Like it matters because people are watching, they're observing, they're learning based on your behaviors and what.
So I'm going to take us back to a marriage retreat a few years ago. Remember, Pastor Ron, when I got in a fight with my wife on stage?
Oh yeah, I've had one of those at the marriage.
Well, I mean, honestly, it was so funny because it happened and it was so natural. But I'll say this: if you don't deal with your problem, sometimes it's going to pop up in a point where you're going to have to. And I remember I had to do it, and I've never repeated that one again, ever. But I was in a form of always correcting my wife,
Right.
And I corrected her in front of 600 people, and I was like,
And that's the thing.
That isn't going to go over
You taught
well.
me about when you taught me about working out. You taught me about muscle memory. When you have a bad habit with your mouth
Yes.
or your attitude, it's the same as muscle memory.
same
right?
thing with technique, the lifting.
It's
Well,
the
you
same,
guys
yeah,
weren't
it's a
at the
habit.
marriage retreat. My wife got on to me in front of everybody. And what she called me, a fancy pants or something. She says, sometimes you're a fancy pants, or I don't know
I
what
mean, people love it,
wasn't that. Oh,
too.
they loved
they
it.
did.
I heard numerous people say, she's as cute as a little bug in the rug. She is so cute. We love her. But she gets on to me, then she pats me, but you're a good man.
I think we should do a
After
podcast
she gets on me.
where her mom sits next to you with a microphone.
Oh, gosh.
And just occasionally she can jump in.
Occasionally.
Let me throw another one out.
Yes.
Okay. Learn to say no. But here's another, I believe, a thing that helps me with stress, although I don't get to do it very often. There's reasons why. But man, the few times in the last 5 years, I've been somewhere, a professional place, and they offer massages. And it massages the stress right out of me. Man, they get in the shoulders and the neck. Now, I say that with hesitancy. There's two problems about massage. Number one is, man, if you're in town and you know somebody, like I used to have this guy in the church, they gave massages, and he would come over to my house. Oh my gosh, he'd get a hold of those muscles in my neck and my back, and I would just feel
Talking about Gary.
the stress. Gary,
That wasn't a
Gary.
massage. That was torture.
That was
He would-
torture.
He would take his
Right.
knuckle and find
But
But I
Good
felt,
massage
I felt
hurts,
my
yeah.
stress just leaving my body, probably
he would
because of
find
the
a knot
the
and
pain.
just put his whole body weight into that knot.
That was
and
Gary.
He would just cry.
But I'm talking about massage, and I would have them weekly if I could. But number one is you got to find a legitimate place. When you're traveling, it's not, I don't recommend it.
Don't roll the dice.
But if you're at home and you know somebody,
Yeah.
like
Don't hold it
somebody
nice.
you know that you know
Yeah.
real well, and also they're kind of expensive for some people. But when I'm really stressed out, a few times, only probably like 5 times in the last year or two, really stressed, and I go in and get a massage, oh my gosh, I feel it just leaving my body.
Yeah. Well, human touch is huge too. I mean, it really is. If I'm stressed and I pick up my daughter and my daughter, one of them's 3 years old, and so I pick her up and she still has that thing where she'll squeeze you. That right there is like immediate
Therapy right there.
Oh my gosh, it just calms me down. If I'm
Yeah.
upset, I can't be upset.
Well, I was in the airport a while back and flying. I was just so stressed out. Take your shoes off. Somebody put me through the what do you call it, X-ray thing, and they kept holding me up and talking to me. And there goes my wallet, my phone down, and I'm stressing out. And I went over to sit down, and one of the people with us, it was on an Israel trip, one of the ladies, come over and started massaging my shoulder. And I go, oh my gosh, don't stop. Oh, I need that. I need that right now.
Well, I mean, the original church was probably very loving, very huggy, very close, and it can be dangerous, of course, but
There's dangers, yes.
But there's also something so good about that. I remember when I was young, and Scott Garcia, if he's listening, he was a little bit older than me, but he would always say, I'd come to church and he'd always say, hey, I got to get my hug. And he'd give me a hug. And it always it was comforting. It was like, man, this guy cares, And so within parameters, you don't want to be the dude at church that's hugging all the ladies, but at the same time,
You do not.
You'll be talked to.
yeah. At the same time, be approachable, smile, even a smile, right? Like that can do a lot for us.
Well, yeah, it's funny because when you talk about those things, you just realize how minimal time that they do take and how maximizing what they do for you or others increases. I when I was going, thinking about things I could do, and one of the simplest tips I learned was, give your spouse a hug for 30 seconds in the morning. Now, 30 seconds is a long time, especially if they don't want to be hugged. But my wife went for it, and it's been 3 years now, and we don't miss it.
You know what's funny, Tom?
It lowers your heart rate.
Yeah.
And it's just
Depends though. Depends where you're at in life. 30 seconds. But all right, wife, or all right, Hannah. This might turn into a little bit longer of a hug. depending on.
Vince has 4 kids.
I might have to say 10 seconds on that.
But aren't we
Tom,
talking about
depending on where you're at.
oxytocin, the love drug?
I'm joking.
Yeah, no,
It's like a love drug.
Yeah, it really is.
Your body produces this when somebody hugs you or loves you, and it just
You're right.
The metabolic, the things that happen are incredible.
Yes, with touch.
When you look at the benefits, and it doesn't take a long time.
I'm an introverted person by nature, believe it or not. And introverted doesn't mean you don't talk a lot. I talk a lot, but it means that people drain you. That's what it means. It means that people take energy from you. And extrovert is the opposite. When you're around people, Vince is more extroverted. I'm more introverted, I think, maybe. I don't know. We'll go into that later. But somebody else is extroverted, and the people around them give them energy. They feel energized. And so understanding which you are and making sure that your wife and your kids understand that too. My family doesn't pull energy from me at all. In fact, my close friends don't pull energy from me. But if I'm out in a social group and there's 5 families, it's hard for me. And I love the families, and I always have a good time. But afterwards, I'm like, whew. You know, it's like it takes
like father, like son. I tell people I'm an introvert. They look at me like, no way.
Yeah, they don't get it.
And your mother's more an extrovert. But another one is avoid procrastination.
Oh, that's huge.
If you are procrastinating a lot, you're adding stress to your life.
Yeah.
Because there's this, I call it like a thorn of stress stuck in your mind. And it's irritating going, I need to do that, I need to do that. Tomorrow. Oh, I need to do that, I need to do that. And it's promoting stress.
It does. And you taught something one time, Pastor, saying if you do have a habit of procrastinating and you want to fix it, then set a time limit on it.
Yes.
Say I'm going to do this.
Your 5-minute rule or 10-minute rule.
Right now that needs to be done.
Yes.
And I'm not going to do it. I use it with my wife, and there's things that I'm better at doing, and I'll just say, honey, I'm going to do that. Yeah. And if she sees it not done, I go, honey, by tomorrow, that is done.
Yes.
And I make sure that I want to be true to my word to her. And by tomorrow, the next day, I have to have it done.
The game Jenga? Have you guys played the game Jenga, where you stack them, then you pull a piece out from below you, right? And then you stack it on top. To me, that's stress for me, because I will take something from part of my life, my time, my energy, something, and I will stack it on top so many times. And it's because I do procrastinate and I don't handle things right away. If you handle things, it pulls the stress off. Yes. It takes it off, right?
Right.
And your life is more stable. And so when something happens, you're calm.
I've had an old common phrase that I brought back to life so many times. Why put off until tomorrow what you can do today? Yeah. Your mother asked me a lot, well, you know what? Should we do this today? I said, we have time today. Let's get her done because we might not have time tomorrow.
Right.
Well, I don't know where we're at on time. I feel like it's about that time. But
can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Also, I think a lot of that has to do with being present and recognizing like what you have to do. I think a lot of times we project, and I've been telling people lately, don't be present, don't project, because a lot of times in that procrastination or in that mindset, you start projecting on what is going to happen or what can happen or what can I or can't get done. And it all has to do with tomorrow. It's like, what can you do today to make tomorrow easier? And be there in those moments. And you might get through the end of your day and realize, well, I actually have more energy for more than I thought. Or you might get through the end of your day and say, I didn't have as much energy as I thought I did for that thing. And so therefore I'll have to do it tomorrow. But at least you'll know your plate was full. The Bible verse that talks about, don't worry about tomorrow, for today has its own things that you have to take care of, right?
Take one day at a time.
And that's all you can do is what's in front of you. Well, the thing that's in front of what you have in control today. And control is a weird word to say, but the thing that you can handle today, do that. And then tomorrow when the sun sets and go, again, this can go back to the parable of the talent. God, you've given me these things today. What can I do? How can I maximize this day? And then tomorrow when the sun sets, and tomorrow, if you're constantly maximizing and you know that you're doing the most that you can, then there's no guilt into going tomorrow. So if you don't finish the thing, at least you know that you tried.
Let me, Josh, I want to mention 2 more things before we sign off. Got about 5 minutes, but number one, another way we manage stress is learn to take a day off every week.
That's refuel.
It'll refuel you.
Yeah.
You have to take a total day off every week. Doesn't matter what day. If I stay in town, I usually go out of town when I take a day off. If I stay in town, I'm liable to see somebody. It's going to remind me something stressful. Or I'm going to go by the doctor's office going, oh, I need to do that next week. Or I go by the store, oh, I forgot to buy something. I like to get out of town. And if you don't have any comment, I got another one.
No, that's a good point because
go ahead.
what's natural habit is if you don't do that, you'll cram something to do on that day.
You will.
And then you've lost the point of refueling.
Good thought.
My thought on that thought is spend your day off wisely too, because how many people say, I got a day off, I'm gonna go to the boat or go to the lake and I can get on my boat and I'm gonna drink beers all day. and then you're drunk and you're tired and you get back in your bed and you can't sleep that night and you wake up and it's work day again. You're not going to do yourself any service, right?
Rest, have fun.
Find out what fills your cup.
Yeah, what fills your cup.
And stay healthy as much as you can.
You got to have some deposits, before you give out.
Spend the time
and the other
wisely.
one I want to mention is learn to exchange your bad thoughts for your good ones.
Yeah.
And make an exchange. Like I have people come into my office very often and they're worrying and they got all this on their mind. And I'll say, let's do a little thing here that I've done for years. I want you right now, give me your attention. I want you to think that you're at a circus right now. You're at a circus. Right now, you're at a circus. Get into it. Tell me what you're seeing at the circus. They go, well, I see some elephants with pink tutus on. Okay, come on, continue to tell me what you see at the circus. I see a lion tamer over in the corner. He's getting ready to do his act. And I see some clowns, yeah. I said, okay, now while you were thinking of that, what happened to the thing you were worrying about? It's gone, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's gone. You don't know how many times that I'll be worrying about something and I feel stress coming on. I go, right now, change your thoughts. And I start thinking about the Dodgers starting lineup coming at the end of the month and who I'm going to put on what base. I do this all the time.
Yeah.
I will change my thoughts by changing my thoughts.
Crowd it out,
I crowd out the stress.
Absolutely.
You know something, Pastor, and I think I like the exchange because something that helps me a lot is laughter.
Oh, laughter's huge.
I mean, and I will say this, and that doesn't make me look too manly, but I've been caught up with cat videos. Yeah.
Cat
videos. They're just funny. I just don't know why. And I'll be laughing. My wife goes, "Are you watching a cat video?" I go, "I am." But
There are worse things.
There are worse things. But if I do that for a minute, I feel so
it's
good.
True. It's true.
Yeah.
Laughter.
So whatever gets you.
Hey, don't laugh, Dad. I see you watch America's Funniest Home Videos all
every
the time.
night, almost every
Pretty
night.
much cat videos. Huh?
A lot of,
There's a lot of cat videos.
Wasn't it Norman Cousins? Is that the right name? The guy that says he healed himself through laughter. Healed himself. Now think about it. He's laughing. When he's laughing, 3 or 4 hours a night, he's getting candid camera. He's watching all this funny stuff. He says it healed him of cancer, or I think it was cancer. But think about it. He's laughing, getting all the stress out. When the stress is out and you're eating a good diet and doing the proper things, your cells start repairing themselves. And your DNA starts repairing itself.
And guess what? You're also in the moment. You're practicing mindfulness.
Well,
which is huge.
real quickly, Josh, I went on the internet. And I'm telling you, don't believe everything you read on the internet, especially you older people. The internet blows me away with some advice. It says, to eliminate stress, drink green tea. Well, it has caffeine in it. It might make your stress worse. Now, I love this one. Snuggle your face in your dog's fur. You got to be kidding me.
I mean, for somebody, Tom likes cat videos.
You got to be kidding me.
I'm not snuggling my face in the cat.
I know what my dog does. I'm good.
Learn how to knit.
You know he licks, right?
Oh.
Learn how to knit. Turn on Ariana Grande.
Okay.
And one of them said, take a bath, but not a bubble bath. So now I'm stressed out about why not a bubble bath? What's wrong with bubble bath?
I agree with you. That gave me anxiety for some reason.
What's going
I'm
on
like, why
here?
not the bubble bath?
I've never taken a bubble bath ever in my life.
I'm ready to
It's because you two are high strung. That's why.
I'm ready to sign off whenever you are.
I want to leave. I want to just one thing about too. We were talking about laughter and all the things. I think taking your thoughts captive too is really, really
The
important.
Bible
I want to
says
end
that,
with
yeah.
just
Yes.
that those things that are stressing you out, those things that
Yes.
you think that are big deals, and some of them are big deals. But take those things captive. One of the things I was,
But it says obedient to Christ.
Yes.
Oh, big time.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. So it's a two-parter.
I love when things start stressing me out. One of the things I'm learning to do in taking my thoughts captive is saying, you know, if it's like, hey, you have this thing due, you know, and it's like I start getting anxiety and I start worrying about, like we had the couples retreat and I knew I had to get a video back and we had a new LED wall and I knew it had to be there and I was going to get back late. And I just had to stop and instead of let my mind rev up, take the thought captive and say, okay, yeah, you can do this. And what is the practical? So I think as all of us and as all the tools that we shared here today, taking your thoughts captive might be thinking about the circus. It might be some laughter. It might be the exercise.
Yes.
But I think taking control of those thoughts, not letting them rule over you is so key.
So
you're not stressing out.
Your thought gave me one more, but go ahead.
Me too.
I have
know, we can just
I have
keep
an
going.
ending thought.
What's that? Okay, let me just do mine first. And
Yeah,
then
I have an ending thought.
So one more tool that I thought of when you're talking is thankfulness, man. Like thankfulness is huge.
Wow.
I'm going on.
I'm glad you said that.
I'm having my 17th year anniversary this week, and
Congratulations.
I'm looking back and I'm thankful for my wife, my family, everything God has given me.
Yes.
And when you're thankful for what you have, you can't
Yes.
think about what you don't have.
Yes.
You can't think
Right.
about what is bad or negative, right?
Right.
You're thinking
That's
about what
good.
God has done, and He's never let us
Yes.
down,
Yeah.
right?
That's good.
So,
So
anyway.
true.
Well, my ending thought was you have to have a reason to want to manage your stress.
Mm.
Some people don't. I mean, number one, I want to stay alive. And with already fighting 2 cancers, I want to stay alive. And I realize stress is going to shorten my life. That's one thing. Number two, I feel like when I'm stressing out all the time, I'm projecting a bad testimony to everybody around me because it's saying in a roundabout way that my God's not big. He's not big. He's not in this with me. He's not going to help me. So there's a lot of reasons, but you got to have a reason for managing your stress. And hopefully today we've given you some things to think about.
Yeah, I hope so, man.
So-
and if not, there are resources, right?
Yes,
Look
all
it up.
kinds of resources.
I think it's all probably in the Bible too. I don't know, but anyway, we love you guys. We thank
Yes.
you for listening. We thank you for subscribing and sharing. I hope you guys have a great week.
And
don't,
please let us hear from you.
and don't stress out.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. Be happy.
Yep. No worries. Be happy.
You're like a piece of heaven in a hurricane. And it's bubbling over like sweet champagne. You got your mama's sunshine. You got your daddy's rain.